over the course of his 16-year career as a nurse, Charles Edmund Cullen poisoned numerous patients with toxic injections, and he slowly gained a reputation as the Angel of Death serial killer. Nurse Cullen worked at 9 different hospitals in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and there was a lot of suspicious behavior and actions that went on, and you're about to see what that is. So as of now, it's time to slip into a mind that's not our own. Now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say male nurse? Maybe that's somebody's true, passion in what they always have wanted to be. Or maybe it's, a stepping stone to becoming a doctor. Well, for this case, it was something different. Something more sinister. Now, Charles Edward Cullen grew up as the youngest of 8 children, and he was considered to be a little bit awkward but also pretty smart. But it seems he lived a sad life because his first attempted suicide was just at the age of 9. Drinking a mixture of chemicals from a home chemistry set. I mean, it was just the beginning of multiple suicide attempts over the course of his lifetime. Now, Cullen's father died when he was just a baby, and his mother died when he was 17 years old in his final year of high school. Now, after his mother passed away, Charles dropped out of high school, and he joined the Navy in 1978, and he served as a petty officer 3rd class on the USS Woodrow Wilson, a ballistic missile submarine. And despite the routine that the military provided, Cullen's mental instability was still evident. I mean, repeated issues led to him being transferred to a supply ship where he could go on to make several more suicide attempts, unfortunately. And Cullen received a medical discharge from the Navy in 1984. So right after this, he enrolled at the Mountainside Hospital School of Nursing in Montclair, New Jersey, which led him to gaining a position working at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey, and this was in 1987. Now, he married a woman named Adrienne Taub that same year, and the two would go on to have 2 daughters of their own together. And it would appear that Charles had found a far more stable rhythm in his life at this point. Or maybe not, because just after a year of him completing his nursing training, Cullen committed his first murder. Now, beginning his journey as the Angel of Death serial killer, John W. Yango Sr., who was a judge, had been admitted to St. Barnabas for an allergic reaction to a blood-thinning drug, and Nurse Cullen had the pleasure of serving him. Now, Nurse Cullen gave him a lethal overdose of medication and would go on to kill 11 other patients while employed there before quitting St. Barnabas in 1992. Now, investigations into these deaths of his patients, it did show abnormally high insulin levels in their blood. And they also found that some of the IV bags had been contaminated with insulin. Now, despite these 2 suspicious facts, the outcome of these investigations were never shared with the police. Now, I have no idea why this was not brought to the police's attention. In hindsight, if they would have put his name at least out there earlier before everything else happened, they could have prevented possibly hundreds of deaths. Yes, you heard me correctly. Possibly hundreds of deaths. So after this, he found a job at Warren Hospital in Phillipsburg, New Jersey, where he harassed a coworker and later broke into her house, which led to his arrest and an eventual misdemeanor. But after this incident, Cullen attempted to take his own life. His second attempt since he's left the Navy. And after this one, he received psychiatric care at 2 different facilities. But so far, Charles had gotten away with murders and nobody was the wiser. Now, Cullen's name first became associated with murder in 1993 when a breast cancer patient at Warren Hospital died after receiving an injection from an unknown male nurse. I think we all know who that was. And then in 1993, Adrienne Taub, his wife, served him with divorce papers on the grounds of extreme cruelty. She would go on to make 2 domestic violence complaints against him as well. And the documents from the divorce proceedings and domestic violence complaints painted a picture of a reclusive and a violent alcoholic man. I mean, guys, the cruelty detailed, including pouring lighter fluid into people's drinks, prank calling funeral homes, and stuffing pets into trash cans and bowling bags. And a former neighbor actually reported Cullen's cruelty to people for the ethical treatment of animals, also known as PETA. And thankfully the dog was ultimately rescued. Now, despite these horrible claims, Cullen received shared custody of their children. I mean, he was also ordered to pay child support, but Cullen reported wanting to quit nursing around this time, but the child support payments forced him to continue. Yeah. Somebody should have told this guy that he can actually do a job without killing people. So in December of 1993, Nurse Cullen left Warren Hospital, taking a job at Hunter Medical Center early in 1994. Now, Cullen has claimed that he did not kill anyone in his first 2 years of working in the intensive care and cardiac care units, but admitted to killing 5 patients in his 3rd year there. Now, he used a method that he previously employed at places like Warren Hospital, which was overdosing patients on digoxin. Now, digoxin has to do with the rate and rhythm of your heartbeat, and it's usually used to slow the heart down. Then in 1998, the New Jersey serial killer was at it again. Working at a hospital in Elston, Pennsylvania, he committed yet another murder. And the coroner's report revealed a lethal amount of digoxin. However, the investigation done into that matter somehow was inconclusive. And you could say that his murderous habits continued throughout 1999 when, while working in a burn unit in Allentown, Pennsylvania, he killed 1 patient and attempted to kill another. Finally, Nurse Cullen would resign from that position and would go on to work now in the cardiac care unit in St. Luke's Hospital in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Then, Cullen killed 5 patients there over the course of 3 years. Now, Cullen's final post was at a hospital that would prove to be the most lethal. He began to work at Somerset Medical Center in September of 2002, also in Pennsylvania. Cullen was noted for using the hospital's computers to access the patient's records for people that he wasn't even caring for. And he was also seen by co-workers going into rooms of patients that he wasn't attending for as patients. Plus, he had also mastered the computerized system that the hospital used to administer medication. He worked out not 1, but 2 methods to keep investigators from tracking the medications that he frequently used to overdose his patients. And Cullen's crimes seemed to escalate when he worked at Somerset Medical Center. And in August 2003, Somerset finally alerted the authorities to the death of one of Cullen's patients as a result of low blood sugar. Promptly then, Cullen was fired in October of 2003 and arrested on suspicion of murder in December that year. Now, just in his time at Somerset, his last one, medical center, he murdered at least 13 people and attempted to murder at least 2 others. Now, when speaking to authorities, Charles admitted to committing murder and claimed that he did so to spare patients from going into cardiac or respiratory arrest. And he also claimed that he overdosed patients on purpose to end their suffering. Now, despite this claim, many of his victims were not terminally ill. Cullen initially denied committing murder at other hospitals, but as detectives showed him records, he finally confessed to his crimes. Then, in April of 2004, Charles Cullen pleaded guilty to multiple murders and attempted murders at Somerset Medical Center. He would then go on to plead guilty to 3 additional murders in May. And on March 2nd, 2006, Cullen was sentenced to multiple consecutive life sentences and deemed eligible for parole in 397 years. And believe me, nothing about this is funny. It's just that, like, you're gonna let him go on parole in 400 years? Why not just say no parole? You know what I mean? However, if anything good came out of this, it's this. The actions of Charles Edmund Cullen led to a New Jersey law that requires healthcare professionals to report any workers who seem like they may pose a threat to patients to licensing boards and consumer affairs. Now, it's become known as the Cullen Law. The Good Nurse, a film about Cullen's life, is said to come out in 2022 later this year. I'm sure it will probably be an interesting movie. In fact, it just said it was coming out in 2022. I actually haven't checked if it's already been released. It probably has. But maybe I should have watched that and probably would have had a lot more information for you guys. But, you know, I don't like to watch a movie and then just regurgitate it to you. I'd rather now have you be surprised and maybe know a little bit, but then go into the movie, watch it, and learn so much more. Maybe this right here story made you now want to see the movie. Maybe that's it. Yeah. Then, although authorities have convicted him of 29 murders, Cullen himself has said that he's probably killed around 40, according to the New York Magazine. Still, many familiar with this case believe that the actual number of murders he committed may be well over 300. Some say as close to 400 murders. And that is why he is sometimes called the Angel of Death. I mean, his involvement in possibly hundreds of deaths makes Cullen one of the United States' worst serial killers ever.